This is Up for Debate presents Shaken, Not Stirred, 6 Decades of James Bond in Film. Tonight, episode number 142, recorded April 4th, 2019. Chapter 3, Roger Moore in Live and Let Die, The Golden Gun Who Loved Me. Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of Up for Debate presents. I am Sean Jennings, joined as always by, we've got M, we got Q. We'll call this guy. He's our triple X. He's Matt Mariani.
Whoa! I get 3 letters.
You get 3 letters. You're a Russian agent.
All right. How are we doing, comrade Sean?
I am reporting for duty. Never been more thrilled to be here. We've got a new Bond. We've got 3 new movies, and we have a returning guest because yes, our resident James Bond expert is back to introduce us to the world of Roger Moore. It is Colby Rabideau. Hello, Colby.
Hello. I just couldn't miss The Spy Who Loved Me. It's too good.
Yeah, we have got a mix of movies tonight. They run the gamut.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah, they were really all over the place. I'm having trouble remembering the middle one. What was the middle one? It was Live and Let Die.
No, it's Golden Gun.
And with the Golden Gun.
Which I agree is an unremarkable film.
It really was.
Well, I think it's remarkable for the wrong reasons.
Yes. Well, I mean, when you've got the thrilling action of both Knick Knack and Good Night, how can you forget?
Good Night.
The missed opportunity. They had a villain named Knick Knack, but not one named Paddywhack.
Oh, that would have been great.
He could have had a thick racist Irish accent, and he could have just been all the worst Irish stereotypes. It would have fit right in with this era of Bond. So
Oof.
That's true.
Not a great era.
I could just picture him. He'd basically be that fat white cop from Live and Let Die and Man with the Golden Gun, but with like an Irish brogue.
I'm just trying to think of who's better, Knick Knack or Jaws.
I mean, I love Jaws.
But he's so useless. I mean, he's big and he's dumb and hard to kill. That's kind of his redeeming qualities.
And he has metal teeth that he uses to bite things.
Which is
like
bizarre. He bites a shark
cable.
to death.
And he bites a shark to death.
Did you have you noticed, like, in these movies to this point, there are like 2 kinds of bad guys that James Bond fights? There are either most of the bad guys, which he can one shot, like, punch out, which is almost everyone in the James Bond universe. He can punch one time and they fall down. Or there are the bad guys that are like somehow impervious to his one-shot punch and are just like a million times stronger than him or something.
Like Oddjob and Goldeneye.
Right, like Oddjob and Jaws, like they just pick him up. It's very silly. But there's no like middle ground. He never just has a fight with a guy. He's never like evenly matched. He's always like he's either OP or like totally out of his league.
Who was the guy in From Russia with Love? The henchman. He was very hard to kill as well. I can't think of his name.
That would be
testing our memory, our knowledge here.
Blonde guy.
Red something? Red. Why do I think the word red is in his name?
I mean, I can...
Russell Redman. Look him up.
I can definitely...
He was very... Yeah. He looked like... He had that quintessential Bond...
Oh, you were kind of close. It was Ronald Red Grant.
Thank you. Ronald Red... I knew
Donald,
the word
I'm sorry,
Red
Donald Red Grant.
Donald Red Grant.
Yes. Guys, we have got 3 movies, a new Bond. Let's jump in. We're coming off of the... success of Diamonds Are Forever, Sean Connery's last role at the film. He declines to return for another after completing his 6. And so they go out, they go looking for a new Bond. They consider a lot of actors, including Adam West and Burt Reynolds. Then they go away from Americans, look at a bunch of British actors you've never heard of. And they ultimately...
Can you imagine Adam West being James Bond?
I mean, I don't think it'd be bad. I think it'd be different. Like, there is some value to that.
Right. On the other hand, I guess maybe Adam West would like fit into the just silliness of this era of Bond movies.
Oh no, he'd be great.
Sense. Yeah. I'm also like, maybe I'm not being fair to Adam West, but all I'm picturing is like Batman Adam West, which is ridiculous. Maybe it's just the times.
They would have done the Bond Tusi instead of the Bat Tusi.
Oh my god. That's the one thing Bond has been missing.
With these movies, yeah.
However, they end up going with the man they've twice passed over. They considered him for Dr. No, and they considered him for You Only Live Twice. And they ended up going with Roger Moore.
So is it Sir Roger Moore? Has he been knighted?
Yes.
Yes, Sir Roger Moore.
Yep. A most excellent order of the British Empire.
Yeah. So he started as he was like a comic actor, right? He was he appeared. I remember his first appearance as Bond was in a late night comedy sketch, like similar to like the British SNL almost, where he played he played Bond.
Yep. In
like a sketch where he was like dating this Russian agent or this it was like spy versus spy kind of, and they were doing like the whole bit with the exploding cigarettes and the poison in the drink and stuff like that, and that was his first appearance. Yeah.
And he also, after that, but before Bond, in the series The Saint, which ran from 62 to 69, a more serious spy thriller. He played a James Bond type in that series as well in the UK.
So I guess they saw that he had the chops. And right away, one of the interesting ways that they make him stand out as the new Bond is that in one of the earlier scenes in this movie, he orders a bourbon instead of a vodka martini at a bar. A little subtle way, trying to set him apart from Sean Connery's Bond right off the bat. Actually, I think there might be a cute little callback to this. I don't know. I haven't really just decided whether or not it's a callback or not. I don't know what you guys would think about this. But in a future movie, in GoldenEye, which is Pierce Brosnan's first Bond appearance, when he's meeting with Judi Dench's M, also her first appearance in a Bond movie, she offers him, or he asks if she has any. I think he asks her if she has any vodka stashed away, or so he's like, your predecessor kept, a bottle of some type of vodka here, and she says, I much prefer a bourbon. So maybe I don't know. I wonder if that's some kind of callback. I don't know.
Is that a thing? Does the bourbon drinking continue through the Roger Moore films, or does he fall back into vodka martinis? I don't know the answer to this, having only watched the 3 that I watched.
I don't remember.
I know in the club in Egypt, in The Spy Who Loved Me, there's a joke that Agent XXX makes about knowing his classic drink order because they're spies, and it is a martini.
Right, and she knows his too. That was their
Yep.
Right. But anyways, we don't have to get too far ahead of ourselves.
No, we've got to start with Live and Let Die, the 1973 film directed by Guy Hamilton. It is his 3rd James Bond film. He previously did Goldfinger and Diamonds Are Forever. The movie came in at a budget of $7 million, ended up making $161 million. Guys, they made a blaxploitation James Bond film.
I guess we're getting right into it.
I mean, I do love the way Wikipedia describes it, so I'm going to do a very brief read-through. Live and Let Die was released during the height of the blaxploitation era, and many blaxploitation archetypes and cliches are depicted in the film, including derogatory racial epithets, honky, black gangsters, and pimpmobiles.
It was a different time.
It was.
I made a really keen observation here. It's just pretty blatant, actually. It's just right out there in the open. I wrote, it's when, remember, if you remember, Bond is in Harlem, Which also kind of feeds into the theme, the blaxploitation theme of this movie. They go to Harlem, they go to New Orleans. There's a scene in New Orleans, and there's the large part of the movie takes place in Haiti. So those are just the three parts of the Western Hemisphere that are pretty much, besides the Caribbean, where they already have been in Bond films, that you think of as kind of quintessentially like black, or African influenced parts of the hemisphere. So it's when they're in Harlem, when he goes to Harlem to investigate what he has to investigate there. The black CIA agent tells him, "This disguise you're wearing, whiteface in Harlem. Good thinking, Bond."
I will say, like, tastelessness, like this ridiculous stuff aside, I did think it was like genuinely funny to see like Roger Moore in the situation, like James Bond in a situation where he was so like clearly out of his element, I guess, like where he, like, I feel like that's the thing many other times in the movie where it's like, you know, he can fit in anywhere. He's like super smooth, like everyone likes him, and to him like going to Harlem or whatever and just being like clearly sticking out like a sore thumb and being just looking totally ridiculous in the situation that he's in was kind of funny.
Yeah, he's wearing his Bond tuxedo, or his like dinner jacket attire. Right. He walks into the club in Harlem, and every pair of eyeballs in there is just staring right at him, like, who the hell is this guy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say it's I believe this is the very first Bond movie that does not depict Bond in the pre-title sequence. Other than the small exception, I think, is from Russia with Love, where there's a character that's supposed to be Bond, but it turns out to just be a guy in like a Bond mask. But this is the first one that just doesn't show Bond at all. This is where where they capture that guy from the UN or something. He's from like a world headquarters meeting. They like. But now I couldn't figure this out. They like zapped. He had like an earpiece in, and they like zapped the earpiece, and it knocks him out.
They electrocuted him, I think.
But
no,
then
they played a sound.
But then they kidnapped him. But he was in a room full of people.
Yeah, I thought the unveiling of the bad guy's plan in this movie was really, really weak. I thought, because they don't actually get to like the actual plan until an hour into the movie.
Right. They somehow get this guy to Haiti, which comes in the end of the title sequence. But then they flash over to New Orleans, where they're having one of those New Orleans style funerals, where they're like somber at first, but then they stab a guy because of course he's, well, whose funeral is it? It's
yes,
yours.
One of my favorite lines. I love that line. Whose funeral is it? Yours. And he just stabs the guy. That's great. That was a good line.
He dies instantly, and they pick him up in the casket and like walk away with him. But then the other guy, the one that they zapped, right? Then he all of a sudden he's in Haiti in like a voodoo ceremony, and one of the villains, Baron Samedi, has like a giant snake, and it bites him. It was a very, very. I thought that was a very intricate and ornate way to kill someone. It's not like they weren't torturing him for information. Like, why go through all of that? Why shock him? Then they kidnap him from the embassy, and then they bring him all the way to Haiti for that ceremony. I guess just to establish that there's going to be voodoo in this movie. Yeah. But I think there were easier ways to do that. They could have made like a voodoo doll of Bond, right? And they'd be like picking him with a pin. I thought that would be a much easier way to show it. But
that's true. Those snakes look so real.
A lot of them were.
Yes,
a lot of them were.
I feel like there were maybe it's towards the end, but there was one part where they were definitely not real.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have to talk about the snake in the bathtub scene.
Yep.
Which is way more effective than the spider in the bed from Dr. No. Much better plan. But he's first of all, who shaves sitting in a bathtub? I'm gonna call Bond out in that.
To be fair, I've never tried it.
Maybe he knows something we don't. He's a refined man.
Shower beer, shower shave. I don't know. Might be something to that.
It was an odd one.
So I thought this was easily one of the best theme songs. Paul McCartney's "Live and Let Die."
Yeah,
it's definitely one of the most enduring theme songs of a Bond movie.
Does anyone want to come out and say it's the best Bond theme?
No.
Anyone man enough to do it?
I've thought about this. I've given this some thought. I think there are better openings. There are not many, but there are some better openings. This is the best one so far.
Oh, you think some of the future ones are better?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I have some ideas, or at least some preferences. This might be the most enduring.
It's the most successful.
Yes, financially and commercially, I think.
I would bet more people know the song than have seen the movie.
Yeah.
Which you probably couldn't say about many other themes. Maybe one or two
Basically
others.
none of them, yeah.
Skyfall. I think Skyfall, you would say, more people had probably heard the song than seen the movie.
Was that the one Adele did?
Adele, yeah.
That was pretty.
I mean, that was huge.
That one was a really good one.
And she won the Oscar for that.
She did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was one of the ones that I ranked a little bit higher than this, than Live and Let Die. Actually, I like most of the Daniel Craig themes.
I'm not a fan of the Spectre theme.
That's why I said most. That was probably the only one that...
They won the Oscar for that one, too, which is bullshit.
I actually really, really liked probably my favorite and my second favorite, in no particular order, Bond opening sequences and theme songs are Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Chris Cornell. And the opening for Quantum of Solace, Jack White. Terrible movie, but really, really good opening song, I thought. But
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. Anyway, those are great. This was an excellent opening theme.
Oh, it was great.
It holds its own for sure. It has all the voodoo influences. Of course, the first time we see Roger Moore as James Bond, and he opens up. We see he's meeting with M, and M is telling of James Bond's plan. What do you guys think of the villain's plan here?
I think on paper it's a good plan. Because if I understand it correctly, and again, I don't think the movie does a good job of setting up the plan, but the idea is that this crackpot dictator from a fake island country, that's basically Haiti, but they don't call it Haiti because that might be racist, is also portraying himself as a crime lord drug dealer in America. He's going to grow poppies on his island, turn it into drugs that he can take to the U.S. He's going to give away the heroin for free. Tons of it for free. He's going to get Americans hooked on heroin. And then I can't remember the part where why can't other people sell heroin? I guess because it's free.
He's going to steal it all. That was he was going to steal it and destroy it or something.
I thought the idea was that because he was flooding the market, he was going to put the other guys out of business. Sort of like Walmart coming into your town and putting mom and pop shops out of business.
Because
if everyone could get it for free, why are you paying your local drug dealer?
But why are they paying him then?
But after all the other drug dealers have either moved on to other careers or have gotten killed,
right.
Because you can't go years without making money as a drug dealer. And everyone's already hooked.
So he's just going to basically outlast everybody, and then when selling heroin is no longer cool or lucrative, he's just going to jump right back in. Was that his plan?
Yes.
I thought he was going to seize all the heroin and destroy it except for his own supply, and then he was going to flood the market.
Maybe.
That actually would be really hard. Yes.
But I don't think the other plan would work either, because I don't think the other drug dealers are just going to give up.
He wouldn't be a dealer. He would be like the distributor. He'd kind of be like he wouldn't be like the Walmart of heroin. He would be like the the straight up China. He'd be like the China.
Oh, flooding our market with
just
cheap goods.
Well, manufacturing this cheap heroin, and we don't know if it's cheap heroin. It might be good quality heroin.
But it's free.
It's free is the bottom line. I thought this was a good plan. I thought this was a good,
one of the
sound,
better Bond
economic
plans.
plan.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the better. It's much better than the giant space machines that eat other spaceships, which was I think that was the plan from.
It was.
And they recycle it again with diamonds are forever.
Yeah, it's not a great plan.
So that was the Thunderball plan, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, and they by the way basically recycled in the Spy Who Loves Me.
Yes, that's right. And they recycle it again, and yeah.
Except instead of space, it's the ocean. It's fine.
Right. It's always one of the two.
I had a random question. I just had a random thought that has nothing to do with James Bond, really. And I assume neither of you will know the answer to this. But, like, does heroin, like, go bad? Does it expire?
I'm very afraid to Google that. Does heroin go bad?
Right.
The police showed up at my door.
I never considered this before.
I'm only gonna just go, all right. I like to cook things, good legal things like food. And when I cook, I use spices in my food, and spices do expire, but it takes like 3 to 4 years. Like it takes a long time for most spices to dry out and go bad if you don't open them.
All right,
So maybe heroin is like that. I would have to assume. I think everything expires, doesn't it? Like it comes from a plant. It comes from like a poppy. So over time, it must go bad.
What doesn't? Doesn't like honey pretty much?
Honey is like the only thing that doesn't really expire.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of. Food, consumable wise.
Turns out they don't publish information like that. Oh, there's a Vice article. How to tell if your drugs have gone bad. We're spiraling here, but let me see what it says. In other words,
that's a good point. I mean, if these drugs went bad, that seriously cuts into the villain's supply.
Okay, so here you go. It won't go bad on its own if you leave heroin out. If you keep it in like if you like put in like one of those freezer safe bags or something, one of those food saver bags, you're probably okay. If it's left out for too long, it actually turns into morphine. If they says, this expert says, if they've turned tan or brown, then you know they've gone bad.
It turns into morphine, huh?
Yes, which is bad for you.
Which is also a drug.
Different thing.
Yeah.
Unlike heroin, it's bad for you.
Oh, and do you want to know how to tell if your acid's gone bad?
I think you probably know.
Shine a UV light on it. If it glows, it's still good.
If it glows, it's still good. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
I've learned so much today. Like none of these were things I was wondering.
But now you know. So
if
when
it
someone
ever
asks,
yeah.
Be ready. Well, your bar trivia skills are.
If you're interested, we did a whole episode on how to rob a bank one time, just in case the FBI is still listening.
Part of our committing crimes series. Next week, embezzlement.
That's one thing we haven't done, but probably should do for real. I think that would be a good episode. Corporate embezzlement.
Next up, we meet a big character in this movie,
Mr. Big.
I was going to go with Solitaire, but we can talk about Mr. Big as well.
Mr. Big is the so I get very confused here because there are two villains, but they in the end they turn out to be the same person, which was the dumbest shit ever. Like, just totally unnecessary. Like, why? I don't know why it was because aren't they supposed to be like competitors or rivals or something? But it turns out they're the same guy, which I thought was neat at first. But do the henchmen know this? Are the henchmen aware that
they're in on it?
He's the same guy?
Some of them are. Because how many of them travel to the island? When he goes to the island, how many of the bad guys go with him? Like, I think certain ones
probably
do.
Just a small crew, the higher-ups.
So they're on board.
So there's Mr. Big.
Yeah, and Dr. Kananga.
Dr. Kananga.
Who is the Prime Minister.
The exact same person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, he's the Prime Minister, right?
Yes, of what is the Caribbean nation of San Monique. which it does not exist.
Yes. He meets Bond. No, Mr. Big meets Bond in Harlem, right? Yep. And warns him and says, like, stay out of this. Get out of here. Yep. Stop this.
Yep.
Okay, so he's basically being like he's kind of like Harvey Dent in a way, like where he's like he's got like a good side and a bad side, but not really.
No,
not
they're
like
both bad.
They're both
they're
bad,
definitely
right.
both bad.
But I mean, what I mean is he's like operating in the like light, like the society sphere, but he's also operating in like the shadows, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he's trying to play both sides.
Yep.
Bond travels to Haiti, and this is where he meets Solitaire, right?
No, they meet in New Orleans. She's at his lair in New Orleans.
Okay. In New Orleans.
I have thoughts about Solitaire. Big thoughts.
Do you?
I think Jane Seymour's pretty good at Solitaire, but the issue I have, and you guys have to confirm this to me because I thought the movie made it clear, but I want to make sure we're on the same page here. Is the movie implying she's actually literally psychic? Like, seeing the future is a real thing in the James Bond universe, and she possesses the power to do so?
That seems to be the case.
That's messed up.
Yes.
Because that is
I don't
like
know what
a
you're talking
weird
about.
leap of faith.
Wait, why do you think that the Bond universe is like
there's magic in the Bond universe?
Give me an
because in the movie
example.
Solitaire, there's more than one occasion where she literally is like, "Oh, Bond is coming, and he's on the island, and he's alone, and he's coming," and she like knows stuff she shouldn't know because she's psychic. Like the movie implies she is literally
psychic.
Can literally see the future, which is only the first problematic part of her character. Because then the movie implies Bond takes her virginity, and now she's no longer psychic.
Well, I was just gonna say that the whether she's psychic or not, it doesn't really last too long because Bond sexes the psychic right out of her, like pretty much.
It's crazy.
That's also something you can do in the Bond universe too, apparently. Apparently, her psychic ability only resides on her whole clairvoyance rests solely on the fact that she is a virgin.
Yep.
And as soon as Bond figures this out, he immediately deceives her using a rigged deck of tarot cards to trick her into believing that she has lost the ability to tell the future, and basically in her like state of like low self-esteem, she has sex with Bond. This might be the lowest part of Bond's character. Like, this is the worst thing Bond has done. This has to be, right? Has he done anything worse than this?
Like, Pussy Galore was pretty bad.
That was bad. Yes, there were many problems with that. I agree.
Yeah.
There were also many problems in Thunderball when he seduces Domino, and he just like moments after witnessing her brother's death, he seduces her, has sex with her, and then reveals to her, "Oh, by the way, your brother's dead." That might be even worse.
There's also, and we'll get to it, The Spy Who Loved Me, XXX, you killed my Russian lover, so I'm going to kill you. But what if we just had sex instead and I don't kill you? She turns on a dime.
We'll talk about that. We'll absolutely get to that
we will.
later on. But there are some awful moments here.
I mean, maybe we're reading this all wrong. Like, maybe James Bond, like Solitaire, James Bond is also magic. He's like a reverse siren or something,
I mean, he
right?
Can't be killed.
That's true. He's never died, as far as I know.
Sometimes he looks like one guy, and sometimes he looks like a different guy.
It's very devious. I think I'm pretty sure it was watching this movie too, where I was watching it. I was like, I was watching and thinking about it, and I was like, oh, he's just a bad guy. Like, he's a bad guy. He's like not a good guy. He's a bad guy.
Yep.
That's true. That the government uses to do bad things, basically.
He gets the job done.
This is one of the most interesting parts of watching this back as an adult. Is when you're a kid, you think he's just cool. He's like the shit. He's doing all this heroic stuff and saving the day and doing whatever he has to do for the mission and all the spy gadgets and stuff. And you watch as an adult and you're like, wow, this is not okay. Like he's
upsetting.
He's crossing so many like ethical boundaries with every like decision he makes pretty much. So, although actually that would be kind of interesting if you taught like an ethics class to like show a Bond movie and like write all of the ethical problems with this movie. Like, do you agree or disagree with Bond's decision here? How would you have played it differently? I don't know. That's kind of stuff worth thinking about, I think. Could be fun.
I agree.
But yeah, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in a Bond. I take it back. What he did to Solitaire was the worst thing. Because he crushes her self-esteem, ruins her entire reputation, possibly puts her life in jeopardy, because what is she really worth to this cartel now that she's no longer a voodoo priestess?
And the character I'm just going to call Dr. Mister, because he's really two people, basically says that to her and keeps repeating it even throughout the end of the movie. He keeps saying, "You're worthless to me now because you've had sex with this man."
Right.
And he keeps bringing it up. You mean nothing now that you've broken your pledge of virginity. And I'm like, that's bonkers. What is going on?
This is a little unrelated, but like messed up in a similar vein. I was listening to a podcast today that was about like the hero's journey in like movies and literature and stuff. And they talked briefly about The Wizard of Oz, and they like were saying like, you know, Dorothy is the main character of The Wizard of Oz. She goes on this incredible adventure, and the lesson that she learns from that is next time she should just stay at home because everything she needs is at home. And I was like, no, how could they do this? I mean, I know how they could do it, but
there's no place like home. There's
no
place like Kansas.
Yeah, growing up is exhausting.
We've still got 2 more movies to get through, so we're gonna keep going here. Let's do some quick hits. Any other thoughts, guys? I wanted to point out T.H. Johnson, who had the crappiest looking claw hand prop I've ever seen in a movie. It looked like a 3rd grader made it, and it was very lame.
Well, what was also lame was his death scene when he gets injected with the helium and like blows up. Was that him? No, I'm
that
sorry.
was Dr.
That
Mr.
was Mr. That was definitely Mr. Big. Yeah.
That was you know what though? That was awesome.
Teehee gets pushed out of the train, right?
Right.
That's his death. Yeah.
Here's another thing I don't understand. Like, why after Bond, this seems to happen in this era of movies all the time, right? Like Bond kills the supervillain, and then their henchman like comes after him later. Like,
yeah, that is very much a recurring thing. Yeah. You see it for the first time in Goldfinger. When Goldfinger actually just bails, he actually just escapes. But then he does come back at the end.
Yeah.
For revenge, I don't really know why. He really could have just like sat it out and been like, well, it didn't work out for me, but at least Bond didn't kill me.
But then, it was like this one, and because he killed Dr. Kananga, as mentioned, with the helium thing, and then like later Teehee comes after him, and then like the same thing in I don't know about The Man with the Golden Gun, but the same thing in that's what I'm thinking of, like in The Man with the Golden Gun, Knick-Knack comes after him at the end too. Like,
even Jaws is still fighting towards the end of The Spy Who Loved Me.
Right, like, isn't it over? Like,
it's not over till Bond is dead.
I guess.
Which will never happen. Spoiler alert. I also thought a movie had some good action scenes. Not a ton, but I thought the plane chase on the ground, where it was kind of and the cars were chasing the plane on the ground, and like the wings got clipped off the plane, and I thought that was decent. And I don't think we can get through the end of this movie without mentioning the introduction of what is possibly the best character in the James Bond canon. My favorite character and yours, Sheriff J.W. Pepper. Boy!
I'm so glad he's a recurring character.
That's banana. You know, it's bad enough he's in one movie. When he shows up in the next one, I am flabbergasted.
Who asks for that?
The crowds loved him.
Who's sitting in the theaters like, oh, it's this guy. Yes. I'm so glad he's back.
You think they applauded and cheered?
Yes. Yeah. I wonder if they thought this guy, we could bring him back for like every movie. He'll get into like a wacky situation with Bond. Oh, it'd be great. Oh, you're that English guy who talks funny. And yes. So he's just like a backwater cop, basically, in Louisiana, the Bayou. He's a Bayou cop.
Yep.
And he's like, he tries to. What does he do? Who does he pull over? It's one of the CIA agents, isn't it?
I feel like the car chase is happening, right? Or the boat chase is happening, and like he somehow he pulls somebody over and somehow gets like wrapped up in he pulls over one of the henchmen or something like that, and then like James Bond comes crashing through on his boat or something, and it crashes into his police car, and then
a wacky chase ensues.
It's a great chase. I honestly do think it's a well-directed, interesting chase.
Yeah, the boat chase was fun. I liked when the boats like jumped on the land and like scooted over into the water.
Oh my god! Well, you'll be happy to know that this movie set the Guinness World Record at the time for the longest speedboat jump with the assistance of a ramp, going 110 feet.
There you go.
So, apparently, 26 boats were custom built for the movie, and 17 were destroyed during rehearsals before they even started filming.
Oh no!
So,
was anyone injured?
Not that this Wikipedia article says, but that seems like the kind of thing the movie company would scrub from the Wikipedia article. So
yeah, it wasn't like You Only Live Twice, where the man's leg was sawed off by the
helicopter.
Helicopter, yeah. There was a really cool scene, and I'm trying to remember if it's in Haiti or if it was in New Orleans or in Louisiana, where Bond jumps on the alligators. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
think that was.
And that was a real stunt. That was like actually performed with real live alligators.
Really?
Which I feel like would be super illegal today.
And very dangerous, yes. And I think like animal rights people would probably be pissed off too. But he did. He hopped from real alligator to real alligator.
Yes. I thought that was a good bit. And also a classic, like, they left him to die.
Yeah! Just kill him!
Yep. Literally just take a gun out and shoot him.
Shoot him, right. Shoot him and feed him to the alligators. Just like push him in the water and
at least shoot one of his legs. If you want to see him suffer, like shoot one of his legs so it's broken when the alligator comes to eat him. Like you just leave him there to his own devices. He's Bond. You know he's going to find a way to get out of that shit. But
it drives me crazy. Anything else on...
Well, just to wrap it up, I thought these had to be the most ridiculous villain deaths, right? I mean, in a movie series that is chock full of them, like
the popping
you start with
guy
Mr. Big, who inflates himself, I don't even know. Bond sticks like a helium tube in his mouth, and he like expands and just blows up like a
Looney
balloon.
Tunes.
Yes, that's something that was bananas. But you had that. Then you have Baron Samedi, who Bond shoots in the head, but then it turns out he's actually like a statue or something because he just breaks apart. But then the real Baron Samedi comes out of the grave, and then Bond pushes him into the coffin full of snakes and locks him in there. And you think he's dead until he reappears at the very end of the movie on the back of the train. So
he pulls a Bond.
So you're absolutely right, Sean. Is this movie implying that voodoo is real and that Baron Samedi is actually like a real
that's what's
voodoo
crazy.
god?
Because like you could have easily been like Solitaire's pretending to be psychic. It's not really voodoo, but they actually go the route of like, no, she's actually psychic.
Right.
Like, that's
this guy
crazy.
actually can't die because if this guy gets killed, he'll actually come back from the dead.
I couldn't believe it.
So this movie does kind of blur the lines a little bit between fact and fiction. And then Teehee gets pushed out of the train, which was the most believable of all the deaths, I thought. The Baron Samedi getting, like, it just seemed like when he pushes him into the coffin, it seems kind of like I always watch that and I think that he could have easily avoided that coffin. It's almost like he was like, oh no. He like falls in it. Oh no, I'm stuck. The snakes are biting me.
Ow.
Yeah.
Ow. Ow.
So it's I like to think, my theory is that Baron Samedi wanted Bond to succeed there, and that he was gonna, like, maybe the creators of the movie thought they would make like a spin-off of him, like not a spin-off, but like the next, maybe one of the future Bond movies would feature him as like the main bad guy.
Interesting.
'Cause why not? You have like an ancient voodoo guy.
Well, I like the idea of a Bond movie where like magic exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're psychic, like Bond meets the X-Men. Like, okay, I'm on board. I'm sold.
Hey, yeah, and I mean he does appear again in the GoldenEye video game for N64 in one of the bonus levels. Oh, Egyptian. He's like in the bonus level. One of your missions is to find him and kill him. So he does reappear. Actually, it blurs two movies these two movies because you have to go into the temple, find the golden gun, and then use the golden gun to kill Baron Samedi. So.
Naturally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that wraps up Live and Let Die.
Speaking of the golden gun,
we've got to move on to our next film, 1974. Yes.
You know who was missing in Live and Let Die?
Who?
Our old pal Q. This was one of the first movies that did not have a Q moment.
They thought the movies were getting too gadgety.
That's right.
Little did they know.
But he comes back with a vengeance in The Man with the Golden Gun. 1 year later, 1974, Roger Moore returns as Bond. Guy Hamilton returns as director for his fourth and final Bond movie. A budget of $7 million, made $97.6 million. If the last movie's villains was black people, this movie's villains is Asian people. Taking us around the world. A very 1973 movie combining Hong Kong action and the energy crisis. Yeah.
What was cool about this movie was, like you mentioned, the energy crisis plays a heavy role.
Oh, yeah.
An event that was actually going on at the time plays a pretty big role in this movie, especially tying in with the villain's plot, where the villain is going to steal energy equipment and build his own, like the best form of energy, and then he's going to sell it. Actually a lot like Live and Let Die, but instead of drugs, it's good, like cheap energy. He's going to sell it to the masses and make a fortune.
Matt, can you help us out here and explain to people at home what a Solex agitator does?
It agitates the Solex, of course.
Oh,
when you take this sunlight, you agitate it, and it works better.
That's right.
It gets all riled up, and you get more energy from it.
If you agitate your Solex too much, I think there is a cream for that. So. Yes.
Oh boy, quite the MacGuffin.
This was the last Bond movie to be released consecutively right after the previous movie. That would never happen again. Where like it was released like the year after the previous movie was out. Back to back.
Yeah, The Spy Who Loved Me held up for legal reasons.
Indeed. And then they just never did it again.
No.
But it's also based on the final novel of Ian Fleming. He died before he finished writing the final draft.
Yep.
So the movie director, he kind of had to go off of he had a rough draft that he was pretty much basing all of this off of. But I thought a large part of the movie, the parts that did hold up, I think were because of Christopher Lee as Scaramanga. Now this is a pretty weak role for Christopher Lee, but it is still Christopher Lee. So I think he did manage to hold up well as a Bond villain. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
I didn't like why was he like obsessed with Bond like from the beginning? Was it like he's supposed to be the best assassin and Bond is supposed to be the best secret agent. So they were like, naturally, he was like, he wanted to be the best of the best. So that's why. Otherwise, I don't understand.
Can I give you the honest answer?
Yeah.
It's because the movie needed him to be. I mean, there really is no good reason for why.
Well, this gets into the age-old problem of these movies, which is if Bond is a secret agent, why do so many people know who Bond is?
Yeah.
And in that case, that means he's a terrible secret agent because nobody should know who he is and what he does. But yet this guy has a literal mannequin statue made out of him. In Diamonds Are Forever, the woman references him and is like, "Do you know who you just killed? You just killed James Bond." When they're in the elevator fight scene and Bond switches IDs with the guard, like implying that she knows who James Bond is.
And what he looks like.
And what he looks like.
And it's on the front page of that Hong Kong newspaper, says Commander Bond killed with his photo.
Right. Well, that was back in You Only Live Twice. You would have thought everybody would have been like, even if they did know who Bond was, they would have been like, oh, he's dead now. They wouldn't still think he's alive. It's a problem. It's a problem with a lot of these movies, is that you should not know who Bond is. He's a secret agent for a reason, but he must be the worst secret agent ever because so many people know his identity and his claim to fame, like the reason he's famous. So,
the thing about Scaramanga for me is I like the idea of a rival assassin to Bond. Right? A guy who's always one step behind Bond, but he's always trying to get him and thinks Bond is great and idolizes him while at the same time wanting to kill him. I think that's a really good idea. I don't think it's executed particularly well in this movie because you're right, the motivation is kind of vague. They mix in this solar agitator, not high fat, and all this Asia stuff, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Scaramanga goes away for parts of the movie and then comes back. You don't quite know what his gimmick is, and then he's like killed really easily at the end of the movie. So it's kind of a bummer for me. You really only get that between Bond and him. You only get that one really good scene at the table when they're at his compound on the island where they have a nice interaction, but they don't interact in the movie all that much. I just think it was a waste. I like the idea, and it was really, I thought, poorly executed.
I thought the best interaction they had was actually when they went to the Muay Thai competition. Yeah,
I agree.
And he kills Bond's friend in the audience, but he doesn't he can't react to it, I guess, because that was a great
scene. That was a good scene.
That was an excellent, and he has the solar agitator on the floor, and then
trying to get it with his foot.
The lady comes and takes it, but then she messes up because she's a Bond woman.
Can we talk about Goodnight for a minute?
Oh my god.
Is Goodnight the worst?
She might be worse than she's probably worse than the Diamonds lady. Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah, I still like her. We still disagree on that.
Yeah, you liked her. I
still think she was great.
I thought she started out really strong. She had a lot of potential, but then she was messed up by the end of the movie. But
Tiffany Case.
I
thought she was great. And way better than Goodnight.
I don't understand. Goodnight doesn't add up, right? She's supposed to be there, working for MI6. Why would she be incompetent? She wouldn't be incompetent. It doesn't make any sense. And also at the beginning, she isn't incompetent. They go out of their way to make it seem like she knows stuff, and then.
Well, they did the same thing with Tiffany Case. They made her seem really strong, a strong character out of the gate, and then as the movie, all of a sudden she just becomes a dumbass halfway through.
Well, and Colby's right that she's supposed to be with the best of the best. This, we didn't touch on it in Live and Let Die, but the first African American Bond girl, Rosie Carver, who is supposed to be an agent. Just screams and yells, she's scared all the time and then gets killed really easily. It's such a weak...
Well, she also turns out to be a triple agent.
Well, that's true as well.
She betrays him and then she is back on his side, but then betrays him again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And lot of that you have to wonder. Is that another racial thing? Like that they're snuck in there is like, well, black Bond girl means that of course she's going to be working for.
That's true. Were any of the other Bond girls double agents? I guess other than from Russia with Love.
It's happened before.
World is not Doctor No. There was that lady who's like the secretary, goes back to her place and they try and run him off the road on the way there. And
yeah,
it definitely happens again. World is Not Enough is the one that sticks out most to my mind.
But what bothers me more about Goodnight is not only she is competent, but she's also so horny for Bond. It's like, oh my god, it was like she was both dumb and oh my god, it was so the acting was bad. Like, I really try not to hate on actors because I realize it's not always their fault. It's sometimes the script or the director or whatever. She's genuinely bad in this movie. I'm sorry. It's awful. Yeah.
She was a problem. Another problem, this theme song. Probably the worst Bond theme song.
Yes. Lulu?
Yeah.
Who sang it? Yeah.
Just awful.
Not a good song.
She just sings like the lyrics make no sense. The song is terrible. Yeah. Probably the best, like arguably the best Bond theme song, followed up with arguably the worst. Right after that.
Do you know who was originally supposed to sing the song?
No.
Alice Cooper.
Interesting. Was it going to be the same song?
Really?
No. He wrote a different song, so it wasn't exactly the same. But he actually did write the song, and the producers just ended up going for Lulu's instead. And then he did later release the song. I've never heard it.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Colby's Googling.
Yeah,
I am.
Bad theme song. Let's see. Other stuff in this movie. The first shot of the movie is a man with 3 nipples.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Which comes back later when James Bond gets his own fake nipple.
Best Q invention ever.
I wrote fake nipples on my sheet.
England, this is where your tax dollars are going. Forget about the EU. They're going to Q branch so that he can design fake nipples for secret agents.
And it was a good-looking fake nipple.
It was the best that
British
Parliament could buy.
Yeah.
Yes, best that the pound could offer. You mentioned before how if Live and Let Die was black people are evil, then this movie was Asians are evil. And this movie, when Live and Let Die was out, just the year prior, blaxploitation was a big thing in cinema. Yep. You had like Shaft and all the movies of that era. When this movie came out, a new fad was starting to corner the market, the Kung Fu movie. So you had was this when Big Trouble Little China was out, or maybe that was later, or Kung Fu Hustle maybe. This was like the era when Kung Fu was starting to be like Kung Fu movies were starting to like break into the mainstream audiences. So I think they did a little bit of that, especially when they go to the Muay Thai tournament. They Bond fights those Kung Fu people in the dojo or in the temple. He like fights each one of them. One of them's even dressed like black, so he's like the most tough one. Yeah.
Right. And then the guy shows up with his daughters and like they're all kung fu experts.
Oh yeah, the twin girls. Yes.
That was dumb.
And they kick ass. Yeah.
I did think the hand-to-hand fighting was at least interesting to look at, especially when Bond does his little bit right before they escape one-on-one. I thought that was at least watchable. I mean, that's, again, we've talked about this in previous episodes. You don't see a lot of that type of fighting in movies anymore, like the long, unbroken shot, they're stunt guys, but real hand-to-hand fighting. I thought it was at least, it was well done.
Yeah. It made it interesting, at least. It was something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I wrote down, there's one scene where he's at the club after he gets the golden bullet out of that girl's stomach. Mm-hmm. And there's a fight scene ensues. Well, I think this might have been a blooper in there. If you look in the mirror, like the dressing room mirror, you see in the reflection of the mirror, you see the whole camera crew.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think this was a blooper, like a goof that was in there.
Oh.
If you pause it at just the right spot, you can see the entire, like, the mirror is actually a real mirror that is reflecting what's, on the other side, and what's on the other side is just a bunch of people with cameras, and you can see the whole set. And it's pretty funny, actually.
I like that.
But it's like a split little second goof that they forgot to edit in post. So, really, yeah, funny moment there. Another funny moment was when the return of everyone's favorite officer Dinwiddie. What's his name?
Officer Dimwit?
Dimwit.
No, it's J.W. Peppa.
J.W. Peppa.
Who is somehow on vacation in Bangkok.
Yep.
Not
With
explained.
his wife, right?
With his wife. Just conveniently on, and then of course they're on like some bad boat tour. She tries to buy a wooden elephant, and he's being really racist. Doesn't he call them like pointy heads? And other
he says something really, really messed up. That I guess would be really messed up today, but back then it wasn't a big deal.
Well, I think
that's what I can't figure out. Is he supposed to be like this caricature that makes the rest of it okay or something? Like, look how racist this guy is. I don't think they thought that far. I don't think they thought that far into it. I thought they probably thought, oh, this guy's funny. He'll say some really funny racist stuff, and our audience will laugh at it. I think he was there. He was like a comic relief guy.
I've got
today we look back and we're like, wow, that's messed up. Why is this guy in this movie?
That's the thing. It's like, it's so bad it seems ridiculous. Like it couldn't be. Like, I was watching it, I was like, this has to be like a bit. Like, this is like satirical, but I guess maybe not, which is a shame. It's really unfortunate.
One of the lines when he gets arrested after the big chase, you can't do this to me, and I want my wallet back. Take these goddamn bracelets off. I'm gonna sue you for false arrest, police brutality. I've got connection, you brown pointy heads. I'm gonna get the FBI on you and the CIA. God damn it, I'm gonna get Henry Kissinger. Now look at me when I'm talking to you, boy.
Wow.
Among other things.
I didn't even catch that. I didn't catch that the first time I saw the movie. That is. Oh,
here's a goddamn little brown water hog.
Wow.
He's got some great lines.
Is that really something he says?
According to IMDb quotes lines. Or another one when his wife is like, oh, look, JW, I just got to have me one of those cute little elephants. And she goes, elephants? We're Democrats, Maybell. Get your cotton-picking schnoz out of my pants, he says to the elephant.
This guy is definitely there to make American audiences laugh. That's what I can't figure out also, is that Bond's a British secret agent. The movie's being like made by Brits, right?
Yep.
But not really. I mean, I guess you have like... Actually, a lot of the producers and stuff are not British, right? Like...
It's not as British as it used to be.
It's still like a... Yeah, I don't know. I figure like a lot of that is playing into like American audiences. I don't think that like British audiences are going to think that that's like that funny, like a joke about Democrats or Republicans. But I don't know. That he's a problem. I'm glad he never shows up again. And
he's there for the whole chase. Great chase.
The best part was when Bond gets in the car and he's in the car, and you wonder like, why is he test driving these cars?
Yes, he's on vacation test driving the new AMC Hornet. Well, product placed
in Bangkok.
Yes. but I like I thought the chase was really fun. With the car, I thought it was well directed, and it has that fantastic 360 car flip stunt
Yes, with the slide whistle that ruins it all. That ruins it all.
I think I screamed out loud when that happened in the movie because I'm like, no, that's the dumbest thing.
I wrote
was so
that
mad.
slide whistle sound effect. ...
And what's really there's a great quote about that. I want to talk about the stunt a little bit, but it says right here, composer John Barry added the slide whistle. Barry later regretted his decision, thinking the whistle, quote, broke the golden rule as the stunt was, for all it's worth, a truly dangerous moment, true James Bond style. The sound effect was described as simply crass.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That brings into focus the lack of excitement in the rest of the film and is spoilt by the use of comedy sound effects.
This is a problem that, up until this point, I think a lot of the Roger, like the previous one had this too, is that it's like they abandon realism. And this is where they start delving into like as much escapism and fantasy as they can, which I think they sort of hone in and bring back with the next one a little bit. They go back to a more realistic plot, and I think they learned some lessons here with this movie. This movie was like more like a grand adventure of Bond, but it definitely sacrificed a lot of the realism. Yeah. Very corny, and there's the little midget, or what is his name?
Knick-Knack.
Knick-Knack. Yeah, Knick-Knack. I thought his literal name was midget. I wasn't trying to make a.
They call him that in the movie,
here, but they do. But they say a lot of really awful things in the movie that I like to think we've evolved past. But then again, these movies were only like 20 years ago, 30 years. I mean, like 40 years ago, but. I don't know.
Have changed. I feel like simply crass applies to more than just the slide whistle, I guess. Yeah.
I did write on my sheet, and to be quite honest, I don't remember what was happening when I wrote this, but I just wrote, is it bad that I want Bond to die at this point? I don't even remember why I wrote that.
When did you want him to die?
It would have been late in the movie, according to my notes.
When he's wearing the third nipple?
Yes, that was probably it.
How amazing is it that disguise somehow works?
Well, because nobody's seen
these guys have never seen his face before. They just know that he has a third nip. That's like the only thing they know about him.
I thought it was like, because Scaramanga was there, like, I thought it was like they were expecting him. So, like, he wasn't fooling them, but they were expecting him to come, and they wanted him to come.
Oh, you're probably right about that. Yeah, it was all a trap. In that case, I guess it worked once.
Meaningless.
Yeah, it worked. I mean, it worked before when Sean Connery's Bond dressed up in Japanese face, and that totally worked. He had everybody fooled, especially his excellent Japanese. He mastered it really.
Yes, that's right. His flawless
blended right in. And maybe he thought it would work again. Maybe he just Bond. Another tenet of the Bond universe is that everybody who's not Bond is an idiot.
Just everybody's eyesight is really poor.
Yeah. I actually like the Scaramanga death. I wrote Scaramanga death is cool. Great plan by Bond.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, you build him up as, oh my god, he's the best assassin in the world. He's been training his whole life to kill James Bond, and all James Bond does is like go around his creepy funhouse.
Well, I don't know how he had the time. How did he have time to put all of those clothes on? Because he dresses up like the mannequin.
But
he dresses
think about
up like
Matt.
the statue.
Bond spends a significant portion of his time undressing and getting dressed. So he's got to be pretty good at it by now.
He's practiced, yeah.
But I knew as soon as I saw the wax figure, I'm like, oh, Bond's going to pretend to be the wax figure. Because why else would it be there? It was so obvious.
Yeah.
Bugged the hell out of me. Oh, a anatomically, like, two size, 100% accurate wax sculpture of Where do you even get that?
He probably had it custom made.
Again,
he was
bad
rich.
secret agent when you can make an exact replica of him.
Yes. That doesn't make any sense. Like,
let's talk about the Funhouse a little bit. It's one thing I really liked. I made this in the know. I thought this was a smart thing by the writer, where we actually see the funhouse in action at the beginning of the movie, where anonymous bad guy assassin is used to test the sort of course. And what I like is when we get to the end of the movie, we, the audience, know what Bond is going to see before he sees it. And it creates a different form of tension within the audience. And I really like the fact that they let us, the audience, see the course before Bond saw it. I thought that was kind of a smart idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't know how Bond is going to use it.
Well, and you're like, how's he going to react to the mannequin that shoots at him, or how's he going to react to the mirrors? How's he going to react to these things? And you're like, oh, we saw how the first guy did it. He failed. Oh, this is how Bond's doing it differently because he's smart, because he's Bond. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. Because I think if Bond had just gone through it, you would have been like, what is going on with this weird place? Yeah. I think you needed to have that ahead of time.
This the mirror concept comes back in Spectre, doesn't it? Don't they do something with mirrors in Spectre? I have not seen Spectre. Okay. I don't remember. Well, look for it later on when you watch Spectre. The villain there, I think, also uses mirrors to some degree. So I wonder if that was kind of a little either a nod to Man with Golden Gun, or if it was just a direct rehash and the directors didn't even realize. But I bet it was intentional somehow. Homage.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Knick Knack? Are we pro or con Knick Knack?
I mean, he fits with this movie. He's not as strange, surprisingly not as strange as the villains of Diamonds, Mr. Kidd and Mr. Kid, and
I forgot about those guys.
Those strange men, because they're just strange, and they're strange for the sake of being strange. Whereas the Knick Knack, he fits in with this movie. He belongs in this movie.
I think it's well acted. I think it's interesting. I think the fight scene on the boat at the end of the movie, after Scaramanga's dead, is actually pretty good. I mean, he does get captured in a suitcase, which is kind of ridiculous, but I think some of that is pretty interesting. So I don't think he's a bad character. A good henchman. A good henchman. A well-fleshed-out henchman.
Yes. I would say so.
Because the gimmick isn't that he's short, I don't think. I mean, I know that's definitely part of it, but I think the gimmick is just that he's really good at what he does. Jaws has metal teeth. That's his whole thing. When you look at Knick Knack, you're like, oh, he's actually a well-rounded human being.
He's cunning. Yeah, he's cunning, and he is a loyal henchman. Yeah, that's true. But
and then Goodnight blows up the whole island, just being ditzy.
Oh my God! When Bond was in the thing trying to take out the. And she kept bumping. Didn't her ass at one point push a button on the console? Oh, my God. That's probably where I wrote, "Can Bond please die already?"
Yep. Heavy sigh.
Well, yeah. Any last thoughts on this one?
I thought it was an interesting escapist Bond. It definitely wasn't my favorite Bond, and watching it again, I think I liked it even less this time. But I did appreciate the villain's plan in this movie. The fact that it did have to do with the energy crisis that was going on at the time. I thought that was pretty cool. Not many Bond movies do that, although some will allude to real crises going on at the time or real issues that are happening, like World Is Not Enough with terrorism, Tomorrow Never Dies with the media, GoldenEye with giant satellites that shoot lasers from space, and the crumbling Soviet Union. Yep. But this one was very contemporary, and I like that.
I really did not like this movie. This was a two-nighter for me. I couldn't finish it in a single sitting. I didn't care for it. I also didn't care for Live and Let Die. I don't think they're bad movies. I just don't think they're good. And at this point, when I'm wrapping up and moving on to Spy Who Loved Me, I am so selling Roger Moore as James Bond.
Mm.
Now, I'm going to reserve judgment because there's still many more movies to watch with him in it. But at this point, I'm at a low point, and then we go into The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yes.
Which I think is a very different movie than these first two.
Yeah, I think this is the producers, directors, writers the team responding to like the departure of Bond from the world. Like you really have the last three movies. Pretty much you have Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and Man with Golden Gun are all departures from
they're gimmicky movies.
Realist Bond. Yeah, they're escapist Bond.
Yeah.
And I think people will agree that it started with Diamonds, went like even further off the rails with Live and Let Die, and then was like out in La La Land with Golden Gun, and now Spy Who Loved Me is very much bringing it back to, it's bringing it back to like early Bond, getting back to his roots. It's very very much spy versus spy, dealing with like real diplomatic issues.
Well, let's dig into The Spy Who Loved Me. Before we do, I just wanted to wrap up Golden Gun by saying 1 in 18 people have an extra nipple. So don't feel we're shaming anybody, because we're not.
That's a lot more than I thought.
No, it's Wikipedia
1 in
says
18.
it's true.
Okay.
Next up, The Spy Who Loved Me. As you mentioned, Matt, a bit of a gap between this and The Man with Golden Gun, 3 years due to legal issues. Guy Hamilton is out. Roger Moore sticks around, but they bring in Lewis Gilbert, who had previously directed You Only Live Twice, bringing back the franchise here. The film, as I mentioned, released in 1977, a budget of $14 million, made $185 million at the box office. We go to a new location for the first time. We go to Egypt and Italy for a chunk of this movie. I have to say, I thought the opening of this movie was really... I'm going to say a lot of nice things about this movie, but I really like the opening of this movie because you start with this sort of mysterious sub-attack, and you're like, what's going on? We're introduced to Triple X, and I'm like, ooh, okay, Lady Bond, I'm on board. And then the ski chase, which is an awesome action sequence to open the movie. Fun fact, at the time, the most expensive action stunt ever filmed. It cost $500,000.
Wow.
Well,
and I thought that was just a great way to start the movie.
Yeah, I liked when they were doing the James Bond Triple X like parallels where it would cut between, and then they also they tricked you where you thought like the guy was going to be the James Bond guy, but it was actually the lady. She was Triple X. And then, I don't know. I just thought that. And then the ski chase is super cool when he fucking skis off the cliff and like has the British flag parachute.
Yeah.
Pretty ridiculous / awesome.
I was cheering. I was very excited.
Yeah.
That's, very much Bond getting back into form, as a British Secret Service agent. I even wrote here, wait, isn't this the same exact plot, the same exact villain plot as You Only Live Twice?
It absolutely
Underwater
is.
Subs instead of spaceships.
It absolutely is. Sowing world chaos with nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Ben done. There's nothing original about the plan.
Except it's underwater now.
Except it's underwater.
This is the first time that a Bond movie would have nothing to do with the book by the same title.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. So
it's a so the real gimmicks of this movie, which I don't really think come off as gimmicks, is Lady Bond, Triple X, the original Triple X, not Vin Diesel. Don't get confused. Anya Amasova, played by Barbara Bach, who I think is really great in this movie, is sort of the Russian version of James Bond, and they have to team up in the movie to take on Karl Stromberg, who is the main villain, a megalomaniac, to create a new civilization underwater, who I also thought was very good in this movie. I thought he was a good villain. I agree his plan was weak, but I think as a villain he was at least entertaining. I think his lair was dope.
Dope lair.
Popping out of the water, the all the fish and stuff.
The shark elevator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. A lot of the very cool underwater layer. I like the set piece. Sure.
And what I like is this movie, I feel, relies less on Roger Moore to carry it than I thought the previous two did, because the other characters are so interesting and engaging. When you look at a film like, I'll say maybe Live and Let Die a little bit more, but it's none of the villains or Bond girls you really like get excited about. Like, they're there and they're doing their thing, but you really have to lean on Roger Moore to be the center of the movie, and I think he doesn't succeed when that's the case. He doesn't have the charisma of Sean Connery to carry an entire movie on his shoulders. And what I like about this is you're like, when all these pieces come together and he's just one of them, I think that makes for a better movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later, when we start to get into some of the funny moments in the movie, they don't feel forced. They feel naturally funny. The jokes land better because he has a better character to play off of in Triple X and off of Stromberg, and I think it just works better to his advantage to have a movie structured like this.
Yeah, this movie also does what previous Bond movies, notably Golden Gun and Diamonds, do, in that it introduces a strong female lead. But I thought for the very first time, she actually carries herself throughout the entire film as a strong Bond woman. Like for the first time ever. There's at no point where I'm like, why are they making her look like a dumbass? Or why are they making her seem, as in Sean's immortal words earlier, horny for Bond? Like, she is her own character. She's her own woman, and I think she's very strong.
Until the end of the movie.
But even then, I mean, she makes like a questionable decision. I mean,
she's
but
literally
it's her decision.
She's literally holding a gun to his face because he killed her lover, and all Bond says is something like, "Take your clothes off," and then she just does it, and then forgets about killing him. Like, that's magic.
I know. I think he says, "Well, if you're gonna do it, make it quick."
Oh no, he wants one last request: take your clothes off. I believe is the line.
Doesn't he say, "Can't we get out of these wet things" or something like that?
Yes. Oh, gross. So gross.
Yes.
Horrific.
But then she ends up shooting the champagne bottle instead, which could have gone horribly wrong.
That's
she
true.
was
That
a fraction of an inch off.
I liked. I don't know. Like, maybe we're supposed to think like she was just messing with him when she was threatening to kill him, like she had already decided not to, but I don't know. I did like the part when, like, they were on the boat, right? Like, they get stuck in the desert, the car breaks down in the desert, and they walk and they get to the boat, and then he's doing his James Bond thing, and she totally plays him and gets away.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah. That was really
it makes
cool.
The format feel fresh.
Yeah, and she knows what she's doing. Like, she knows immediately.
Right. Yeah. She's supposed to know him. Like, she knew his favorite drink. Obviously, she knows, like, his playbook, right?
Yeah.
And she totally uses it against
That's what bums me out about them getting together at the end. Like, I kind of would have liked it better if she was just like, we're rivals and that's fine and it is what it is, but I'm not going to sleep with you. Like,
that's fair.
But then it wouldn't be a James Bond movie, would it?
No.
I thought the stuff in Egypt was really good. I thought doing the pyramids Sphinx action sequence at night was really interesting because of the way it was lit. I thought that was a really fun sequence when Jaws chases them around that sort of temple-looking thing. I thought that was a lot of fun when he's kind of tearing the car apart and they're bantering. I just thought all those pieces were really fun to look at. They had a lot of fun shooting in Egypt. Is my thought.
Yeah, that was they worked the set, so it wasn't completely dull. Like, just because it was more realistic, they still had a lot of really good set pieces, good locations. I thought.
Yeah.
And even the set pieces that they created, like the underwater base, worked really well.
Absolutely.
He recycles he uses the woman as a human shield again, like he did in Goldfinger.
Right.
I think he also did it in what was the other time he used the woman as the human? She's like dancing, but he's dancing with her. He's dancing with her, and then he's
that
like,
might have been Diamonds Are Forever.
Diamonds, yes, yeah. He does it again here. In Egypt, I think.
Oh boy, these are starting to blend together.
Yeah, right. See, there's
So, again, he's a bad guy. He is not a good guy. He's a bad guy.
I really liked their conversation, Anya's and Bond's conversation in when they're at the bar place in Egypt.
Yep.
And I think they like revealed just enough about each other that they she talks about how her love was killed by Bond, which I think she knows at the time, but Bond is she definitely knows it right at that point, but Bond is like playing it off like she probably doesn't know.
I thought
I'm not going to tell her. Right, because
I feel didn't he at some point they're together and he let something slip about being in Austria or something, and she asked.
Yeah, that was later in the movie.
Yeah, I think that was later in the movie.
No,
yeah.
What was interesting about the bar scene, I have the line here. Anya says, and this is an interesting a rare reference to a past James Bond film. Commander James Bond, recruited to the British Secret Service from the Royal Navy, licensed to kill, and has done so on numerous occasions. Many lady friends, but married only once. Wife killed, and then he interrupts her, says, "All right, you've made your point."
Yeah.
What's
interesting about that is I think that line, not only is it a rare reference to an earlier film, but it kills the fan theory that every Bond actor is a different person.
Yep.
Because that was a reference to the George Lazenby movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And Roger Moore, being a different actor, is still the same Bond. Because there is a prevailing fan theory that every Bond actor is a completely different Bond character, basically. That 007 is just the title of this person that happens to also be Bond. But that line just kills that theory.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah. I like that. Because that is really the most vulnerable that you ever see Bond. I think until the Daniel Craig movies, where he's just all vulnerable all the time. But yeah. I wrote that Anya is actually the equal of Bond.
Yes, that's awesome.
Which is awesome. Yes, I wrote, "Wow!" exclamation point.
Very cool.
How terrifying was it when Jaws popped out of that closet, and when he's on the train? I forgot about that.
It was a good
part.
jump scare.
It scared the pants out. Yes, that was a jump scare. Yeah, scared the crap out of me. Was not ready for it.
Are we pro or con Jaws?
I like Jaws. Plus, it's dumb, but I like it.
I mean, it is.
I would say
very dumb.
I'm con because I like Jaws, but he's another character that they make him into a recurring character, and I think that's why I like him, is because he comes back into another movie. It's like the dumbass sheriff. Is like, oh, okay, he's something familiar, and the fact that he doesn't talk or doesn't say anything is good. But
yeah.
So then let me ask this. Here's a little thought experiment for you. Let's say you're a bad guy, a James Bond villain. Okay, who would you rather have as your henchman, Jaws or Oddjob? Or who was the one with the hat?
Yeah, it was Oddjob.
Oddjob, right? Okay. Because I feel like they're both lame in different ways.
I think I would probably rather have Jaws as my henchman, because I think he'd be more intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Just going by results. Like Jaws makes it multiple movies.
True. But I feel like, but again, all Jaws can really do is beat people up for you. I feel like Oddjob could also like handle other like a mix, like a knick-knack mixed with
Right. He could do other things like besides.
Jaws is just a big guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's very big.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sizable villain.
That's a good question.
You could also
Folks out
eat
there,
sharks.
tweet with the hashtag. If you would like to have Oddjob on your team, hashtag I'd hire Oddjob. And if you'd like to have Jaws, hashtag I'd hire Jaws.
Team Jaws and
Parentheses,
Team Oddjob.
not the shark, but the guy.
Well,
from the James
if
Bond
you're
movie.
playing GoldenEye, you definitely want to have Oddjob on your team because his hat could kill you instantly.
Can we do, Matt? Do we have to do an episode where you and I play GoldenEye?
Yes.
I've never played it.
Somehow we got to figure that. We have to figure that out.
I'm sure there's a port somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
Okay.
Or if not, we'll just play it like when we both have off or something.
All right.
That'd be fun.
All right. What other things happen in this movie that are interesting? Submarine car. New Bond car.
I love the submarine car.
It's the Lotus Esprit. Lotus Esprit. It's a sexy car. That's a good looking like late 70s car.
It looks like it could really be a submarine.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good Bond gadget.
Yeah. It is. Is this so I don't remember when the bit between him and Q starts where like Q was like, bring it back in one piece this time, please. And he never does. But that's like one of my favorite parts of the movies. But this is what.
Yeah,
I mean, it happens when Q gives him the car.
Yeah, I think that gets that definitely gets to be like a recurring ha ha ha. Screw you! You spent all this money on this one thing, and Bond ruined it. That's so funny.
Well,
Like all that time and effort you spent building it, and Bond just went and broke it. I want to say when John Cleese comes in, they play that up a lot more for yucks, like his like more like nutty professor kind of take on Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, they play that up for sure. Like Bill make something really expensive and take a lot of effort, and Bond will break it.
They also have the classic like Q laboratory scene in this one where they're walking through and just like the technician people are using like random things to blow up things.
Yeah. Yeah, right. The Q Tech.
Yeah.
Q branch. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one interesting thing I just happened to come across online as I was reading some stuff. Did you know that Karl Stromberg in this movie is the first Bond villain whose grand scheme does not involve making a lot of money?
What was his scheme?
To just sow destruction in the world. Because at one point, Bond's like, all right, we'll pay you. How much money do you want to not do this? Basically, the earlier guy's plan. And he goes, I'm not in it. I don't want money. I'm not in it for the money.
He's like the Joker.
I want to destroy the world.
Just wants to cause chaos. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yes, exactly, like Karl Stromberg.
Yeah, certainly a bold plan. Like a lot of confidence to think that you could survive indefinitely underwater.
Doesn't Spectre not want? Do they? Well, they do want money because they eventually make the demand where they want all the world leaders to pay them.
Yep.
$1 million. And they all laugh.
Yep.
I think it was a little more than that, but it was still something.
It was comically small. I think it was like 100 million.
Yeah. Today's standards is like,
which back then was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought this was a Bond-ass Bond film.
Oh,
That's what I wrote down in the notes. Bond-ass Bond. Large British flag parachute, action sequences, exotic locations, seducing women, being cool, a highlight reel of the Bond saga.
I strongly agree. For me, it was a throwback Bond. This really felt like a 60s Bond, not a 70s Bond.
Mm-hmm.
which I liked a lot.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we would all agree this is the strongest of the three movies.
Tonight's? Oh yeah, for sure.
Of tonight's movies, yeah. How does it stack up with the movies we've seen up to this point?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I would probably say it's maybe my second or third favorite. I thought Goldfinger was better.
Mm-hmm.
I still really... Diamonds Are Forever is just weird. But I like that it's weird. I'm not saying it's good, but I like that it's weird. But those would probably be my top two, would be The Spy Who Loved Me and Goldfinger for me.
That's fair.
Okay. What about you, Colby?
I like The Spy Who Loved Me. I always liked The Spy Who Loved Me when I was younger, too.
Well, it's got some good action. You know, if you're not in it for, like, the sexy parts, it's really... it's a good mix with the ski chase and the helicopter stuff, and...
Ski chase is
stuff
cool.
Explodes.
I like Jaws.
The submarines are cool.
Silly.
The boats are cool.
Right. The submarine car is cool because I was totally not... I remember the first time I watched it, and I was like, oh, my God. Because that's not what you were expecting to happen. Pretty fun. The crazy underwater submarine lair thing. Fun times.
There is one other thing I'd like to touch on with this film, which is the music of the film, introducing did you guys catch the new disco-inspired score that was underneath this movie? Maybe I just have an ear for disco.
It could be.
It's a little bit funkier. Go back and listen. It's a little bit funkier. They did. It was a disco rendition of the original James Bond theme that's played throughout the movie. But the theme song to this one, Carly Simon performs "Nobody Does It Better," the first theme song in the series to be titled differently from the name of the film. It was nominated for Best Song, but lost to Debbie Boone's "You Light Up My Life." I thought the song was great.
Yeah,
I actually really liked it. I really liked the song.
This is one of the most memorable Bond songs. It's really a shame that Golden Gun's song was so bad because, I mean, I thought the bookends were so strong. Paul McCartney, "Live and Let Die."
I mean, the American Film Institute named it the 67th greatest song in film. All film.
Nobody Does It Better?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
Any other thoughts on The Spy Who Loved Me?
That's all I have, really. I mean, I
didn't take a lot of notes. I was just enjoying the movie.
Yeah. I thought it could have benefited if I were to change something about this movie. I would obviously change the end, where Anya just kind of readily just forgets about her murdered boyfriend and sleeps with Bond.
Yep.
The murderer of her boyfriend. I would have made it probably that she departs from him and they leave on as equals.
I'd love to see her come back.
Yeah, but then has like a recurring role as a rival of Bond. I would like to see that, and I think that really could have been cool if she came back in a movie like GoldenEye, where the Soviet Union had that was the first movie made after the fall of the Soviet Union. So it's and then see what she's doing now, in post-communist Russia. I think that'd be kind of neat, but
that's good thinking.
That or she sacrifices herself to save Bond in some really cool dramatic way.
Yep.
And then Bond never repay the debt. And he just drinks himself into a depression. I guess that would be a really upsetting ending. Nobody does it better. Just drinking, crying in the shower.
Oh gosh.
Yep. Wow.
Interesting couple movies, guys.
Yeah, we've good news or bad news, depending on how you want to look at it. Is we've got plenty more of Roger Moore left. Hank, at least one more episode full.
I mean, the insane thing about this is we're not even halfway through the movies yet, Matt.
Oh, no.
There are so many movies left.
Oof.
There are.
What were we thinking? Next week will
It's
be
like gifts on Christmas morning. Yeah.
They never stop. They should have stopped making these a long time ago. This is killing me. And next week will be a super mega bonus sized episode because we're doing 4 movies.
4.
Mind blown. Moonraker, For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and A View to Kill. We're going to wrap up Roger Moore next week. A lot of movies to get through, but we'll do it. And then we'll follow that up with our special Bond Part B series with George Lazenby and Timothy Dalton, and we'll get those guys out of the way. We skipped right over Lazenby. We went right past him.
Bye.
We did.
But we didn't forget.
Well, we just figured this format would be easier with we do all the Moores or all the Connerys.
We can't do a whole episode on George Lazenby. Folks, it's not going to happen.
Although there's a surprising number of people that would consider that their favorite Bond movie.
I'm actually kind of bummed I didn't watch them in order. I really do want to see it, so I am excited for that to come around.
I've actually never seen that one either.
That one is aggravating for its own reasons, but also like I liked it immensely more now that I've rewatched it than I did when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, I think it was one of my least. I hated it for a lot of reasons that I guess we'll go into through the episode. But that one is one that has matured nicely. It's probably I would say it's probably the most mature Bond film. Like as a movie holds up. Like it really is. It does a good job of like humanizing the characters. And like it has a nice intricate story to it, so I'm looking forward to discussing that one. Definitely doesn't have any racism, which is always a plus, and
hopefully we're leaving that behind, but who knows? We still got a lot of movies left.
We're definitely not leaving it behind. The rest of the Roger Moore movies, we're gonna encounter that all over the place, but that ain't going away anytime soon. Okay. Even in the Dalton movies, I think it crops up again.
I mean, we've got a film titled Octopussy, so anything's possible. It's going to be a fun time. Make sure you come back and join us. UpForDebate.tv is our website. You can also subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts and the video versions on YouTube, and you can reach us at UpForDebate.tv on Twitter or email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. The series continues, but Colby, we appreciate you joining us. What a treat it is to have an extra set of eyes and ears.
Certainly.
Keeping tabs on the
blast.
Bond.
Yeah.
Come back anytime.
All right.
A treat. You can catch Colby every week on the Don't Panic podcast over at don'tpanic.io. And you can catch him whenever we publish them over at Game Nights playing Dungeons & Dragons. He's DMing right now. He's crushing it. Throwing a lot of stuff at us.
We got to finish.
Never. Spoiler alert, it will never finish. There's so much left.
I had visions while we were playing last time. I had visions of us like in a retirement home. Still playing the same quest line. Like all our kids are like in college, and we're just like roll for initiative.
Just
that's a pretty good retirement goal, though, to all be in the same retirement home playing Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't see anything wrong with
ways
that.
to spend your
I think
time.
that'd be, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that wraps us up here on behalf of Matt and Colby and myself. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time for more super spy action on another Up for Debate Presents.